Welcome to Unleashed with the Patriot Sisters. Buckle up, girl, because we're about to spill that tea just like we did in 1773.
We light the fire under all things politics. And don't worry, social justice warriors, we'll light the fire underneath you too.
Why?
Because we're inclusive.
Prepare to be triggered.
Hey y'all, and welcome back to another episode of Unleashed with the Patriot Sisters. That is us. I'm Christiana.
I'm Isabella, the better half.
You dork. Why do you feel the need to say that?
I just always wanted to say it.
Well, you said it. Congratulations.
Sorry, that was a lot of wheezing for y'all. That was a lot. But
sorry for your earbuds if you're listening. So in today's episode, we're going to just be breaking down, can we compare the 1940s to 2020? We've been talking about this whole Nazi thing a lot on...
I'm so sorry. Let me explain why we're laughing. Hopefully you're laughing with us. So the reason why we're laughing is because this is the 5th time we've filmed this podcast because crazy things have been happening, but we're just going to get right into it. So can you compare 1940 to 2020? We talked about this briefly on our Instagram page. It kind of caused a little bit of
ruffled
uproar.
Some feathers.
It did. So that's why we're going to get deeper into it because that is what we do.
Let's
we're
just
real.
rip those feathers off.
Yeah, rip it off and then go into it. So 1940s, what was happening?
So World War II, that was the whole Nazi concentration camp. Horrible things were going on. We're not actually going to be talking about the war itself and what that looked like. We're going to be talking about the 1930s. So pre-World War II. Wars just don't happen overnight. They're a process. Most of the time they're planned out. It's not something people get into lightly. There's a bigger game plan. So we like to say that we're probably in the 1930s here in 2020.
Yes, and we're going to explain and break it down and compare what we're seeing currently in today's climate to the 1930s. So again, can you compare 1940s, 30s to 2020? Well, to find this out, we got to go back before the climax of World War II.
So a lot of what people don't know is that Hitler actually served in the German military in World War I and he was very similar to a lot of people who hated the Jews in Germany, and they actually blamed the Jews for the World War I loss in 1918. So they were blaming the Jews like they had anything to do with it.
Which is weird, first off. Can I say that?
This is weird.
Second of all, after World War I had ended, Hitler, now a lot of people think Hitler started and founded the Nazi Party. That's wrong.
He joined it and just kind of made it bigger. So he joined the Nazi Party that was created in 1920. And 3 years later, he wrote a memoir/propaganda pamphlet titled, oh my gosh, I'm going to butcher this.
Mein Kampf?
I don't know. It's German.
It means my struggle. Now, real quickly, the Nazi Party was a socialist party.
Are you saying socialism did World War II?
Yes, I am. So next time the crazy
purple hair liberal
chick
lady
comes up to you, you can just be like, are you okay with supporting Hitler? They would respond, no, of course not. Why would I ever be okay with that? Well, he was a socialist. That's what you like, right?
Are you asking for another World War II? Yeah, let us know how that goes. So
the pamphlet.
The whole pamphlet was literally him predicting a war that involved all of Europe and would result in, quote, the extermination of the Jewish race in Germany.
So this dude seriously needed some help.
He's messed up.
It was bad to begin with. And like many other Germans, they all shared the same perspective. They genuinely believed that the Jews were the inferior race and were impure. And like others, Hitler's goal, you're going to want to remember this because we'll get into it later on in the podcast, but like others, Hitler's goal was to make more room for the pure German race to expand.
So it wasn't like the majority of Germany thought Jews were impure. No. There was just a small group of people who thought that they should be blamed for World War I. And all this was happening and that they were impure and
they needed to make more room for the pure German race. So how do you do this legally? Well, you can't go around your village picking off people. Like that ain't gonna fly.
That's not even gonna fly in 1930. No. So especially 2020.
What does he do?
Well, so flash forward to 1933. Hitler is named the Chancellor of Germany, which is a high-ranking
authority in the government.
Right. A year after he was put in that position, the president at that time, Paul von Hindenburg,
Very German name, might I add.
Hindenburg, he passed away. I really don't know the cause, but I'd be interested.
I wonder how he passed away.
I
actually don't know.
I have no idea.
So
after that happened, Hitler appointed himself as I don't know. Basically, it's the president, supreme leader of Germany. Yeah, and after that point, once Hitler became in that position, Germany went from a parliamentary democracy, which is what most of Europe is, to a totalitarian state in just a matter of months. This didn't happen. This kind of happened overnight. Like, it was a very quick switch. And if you don't know the difference between those two, Google them. Complete different set of government setup.
The highlight version is that a totalitarian state type of government basically says that it permits no individual freedom to its people and basically controls every single part of people's lives. So basically,
it sucks.
It sucks.
So,
but what's going on with the Jews at this point? Because that's what this 1930s, 40s was all about. Has their life changed?
No, their life's pretty much normal.
Yeah,
pretty normal. But the Nazi Party, they were a smart group of people.
They were strategic.
I feel like people think that he was kind of dumb, and yes, there's rumors that he was like on drugs, he was mentally ill, but they were strategically planning this.
They're not nincompoops.
They knew they couldn't just walk in, like you said, into a village and start picking off people. They knew that they had to groom the public, the civilians, everyday people to be okay with disregarding the Jewish people. Step by step, they had to take those steps in order to succeed.
And they did succeed. That's the scary part. The Nazi leadership immediately began a strategic economic boycott of Jewish-owned businesses, offices, etc.
Oh, that's kind of like what happened over the summer.
Explain.
With BLM. They said, let's boycott all the white-owned businesses.
It's very true. And this was like a pretty big step in the Nazis' ultimate plan. Okay, was boycotting the Jews.
But how did they get people to even start doing that?
So obviously they had to justify it, right? Legally, and encourage the Germans to also boycott the Jewish stores. So how did they do it? The government spread rumors about the Jews. What was the rumor? Well, they said that Jews were sharing horrible, awful stories to cripple the Germans' reputation. So basically, what is it?
Fake news.
Fake
propaganda.
News. Exactly. So there you go.
That's pretty horrible.
Interesting. Not fun. I said fun. It's not fun. Very interesting tidbit for you guys. They had fake news back then in the 30s.
Oh, yeah. Fake news, I'm sure. I mean, even Jesus, going back to when he walked the earth, there was fake news about who he was, what he was doing. They distorted the truth. Fake news. People, this ain't new.
No.
People have been dealing with this for generations. So they created what they called the Nazi brown coats. Hitler's bullies, the popo, whatever you want to call it.
And what did the brown coats do?
They basically stood in front of the Jewish stores and they were holding signs and they were yelling things like, "Don't buy from the Jews. The Jews are our misfortune. They're toxic. They're bad. Whatever it may be." Just kind of discouraging people from going into them.
Now, this plan the Nazis had, the boycott, the national boycott only lasted I think a day, maybe 2 days. It did not catch on. So exactly what BLM did. It didn't catch on at all.
And then after that happened, they implemented something called the Law of Restoration of Civil Service. Do your own research, quick Google search. You can find a lot of info on it. But basically,
this was introduced not long after the boycott.
Right,
a week or so after. Really fast.
So this made Iranianism a requirement in order...
Did you say that right?
Iranianism?
I don't know.
Iranianism? I don't know.
It's like a type of people group.
Right. Basically, it said that it required that in order to hold public office, anything in the government, or a civil service position to serving the public, it made all Jews retire from that. It forced them to retire because they weren't part of this people group.
Yeah, they were Iranianism. Or
Iranian.
Whatever it's called.
Iranian.
I don't know. But this was strategic, okay? The government knew that Jews were not these types of people, in their lineage. So they said, if you're not part of this people group, you have to retire or quit your job.
It forced people out.
Exactly. If you're in the civil service.
Which means no income, no food, their families.
No job.
Guys, no money.
Bad.
Big problem.
Big problem. So this began to happen to the Jews all on purpose. It was very planned out. And then things got a little bit interesting.
They started prohibiting and taking like the certifications you need to be a lawyer or a doctor,
dentist,
insurance person,
and the government.
They took that away from people, so they couldn't
from the Jews.
From the Jews, so they couldn't have those positions. And also in German schools, they only allowed a certain number of Jewish kids to attend the school, and when they hit that quota, no more kids were allowed.
No more.
And even with the Jewish schools, people were only allowed to go. They cut it down to 4 days a week, and they started cutting things down. So
this was like very planned out. Now the Jews don't have the work that they need to live. The kids are not being educated.
That's so 2020.
I know. Oh, I know. And I mean, like, it's awful. And then they took it a step further. Okay, the Germans took it a step further, and they started banning Jews from all cultural and entertainment activities, including literature, art, film, theater, etc.
They also weren't allowed to be journalists or, work in the newspaper. There was a place under Nazi control. And if you take it to 2020, the government's not telling conservatives that they can't hold those positions. Or society isn't even telling them they can't hold those positions.
But they're oppressing them.
Right. So instead of saying
hate speech and crap.
So instead of saying you can't hold a position, they're saying we're just not going to show your content to people.
Exactly, with the algorithms.
Right.
So
which is what's happened to us.
I know.
So sucks.
Rip.
So go show us some love on Instagram at the Patriot Sisters. Help boost our algorithm again.
A few months later, after all of these crazy things started happening to the Jews and their jobs and schools and entertainment and everything, all of the loopholes and these new laws that the Germans created were closed because they knew the Jews were getting through the loopholes. Now, if you take that to 2020, think about it. What's happening with the whole mask mandates going around?
At first, the government had loopholes. So, like, if you had a medical exemption,
you're good.
You're good. And those loopholes are actually still there. What's happening is, the whole thing about history repeating itself. Mm-hmm. If history repeated itself exactly, we'd all see it coming and we'd be able to have a better idea how to stop it. So history is repeating itself, but a little bit differently this time around. So what I believe and what we've noticed happening is the government's not taking away these loopholes.
It's the private sector.
There's so much pressure on private sectors and companies like Costco. Go listen to our other podcast. We got kicked out of Costco last week. That was fun.
Mm-hmm.
And they're being forced to protect, in quotation marks, protect their workers and shoppers by requiring mask mandates, which they have the right to do, and the private sector has the right to, make pretty much any other rule they want.
Yeah. But at the same time, where's the line? Can you draw the line? Are you able to draw the line? I actually don't know. I mean, I'd like to want to draw the line, but we'll see. So the loopholes are closed in Germany, right? Now, by the end of the first year of Hitler's new president, supreme leader position, all of this had happened.
Yeah, it happened fast. And think about it. We're in December and we're already, almost a year to when this whole thing happened.
We're only 4 months away from March when this happened.
We're only like 4 weeks away from when I first heard about COVID, like on the news.
Oh my gosh. That's so crazy.
Scary.
So basically, we're seeing the Germans, the Nazis, I don't know what you want to call it, ultimate goal, ultimate plan coming into fruition. The Jews are now being looked down upon because, mind you, before all of this crazy stuff had happened in 1 year, okay, mind you, it happened in 1 year, the Jews were living side by side with their German counterparts.
They were equally. Neighbors. They were friends. They did life together.
Exactly.
They were marrying, Germans and people with Jewish heritage.
Mm-hmm.
They were creating families together. They were living in unison.
Like, life was normal. But in 1 year, it all changed, and the Jews were now looked down upon.
Right, as second-class citizens. They were told that they had impure blood. Jewish people were told that they had, their bloodlines were impure because of their religion. This was taught in schools. It was implemented into German culture, everyday life. It probably would have been in social media if that was a thing.
Probably.
They were even told, and the police were given the powers to arrest homosexuals. They made abortions mandatory for Jewish women, saying that they were hereditarily ill.
Which basically, if you don't know what that word means, hereditary means your DNA, family bloodline etc.
You can't change it. Like, it is what it is.
So if you're a Jew, the Germans say you're sick and have to abort your kid.
It's horrific.
Like, it's disgusting, really. So did the Nazis at this point in the 30s, did the Nazis get what they want?
No,
not yet.
Not yet.
They wanted a world audience, so they stepped up their game.
So by 1938, attacks on Jews and their property was a thing. There was one attack where it killed 91 Jews.
In November.
And 267 synagogues were attacked on a coordinated attack that was really disguised as spontaneous, but really was coordinated.
At this point, thousands of Jews were being sent to concentration camps, which is what we kind of learn about mostly in school. And at this point, which is interesting, I actually didn't know this till I researched it on my own, but the Jews that were being sent to these concentration camps were told they would be released if they agreed to leave Nazi territory. Now, just to remind you, if you remember earlier in the podcast, I had mentioned that one of Hitler's goal or ultimate goal was to expand and make more room for the pure German race. And what do you have to do? You got to get rid of the Jews. So they were like, hey, if you leave the Nazi territory, you're good to go and you can leave the camps.
But he also wanted to do it all over Europe.
Exactly. So the Nazi territory is expanding and the Jews have nowhere to go. So they're stuck in these camps.
So this is all happening, people were moving to Poland, but thinking it was safe, but the Nazis were soon to be there as well. It was expanding. Yeah. There wasn't a safe place in most of, the surrounding areas at that time. It was disgusting what was happening. By 1940, concentration camps were in full swing. Mm-hmm. They were on, the whole thing, what was happening was pretty much on the world stage. And the Jews were told, because we met somebody who had family.
He did.
And he was telling us how the Jews and his family thought that there really was a back door in the concentration camps, that they were really going to the ghettos, as they called the community areas for the Jews. They were safe. Oh, it was a safe place. We're here to protect you. Because you have to remember, the government had taken everything from the Jews at this point. Their source of income, their community, their life.
Their sense of identity.
They had forced them into these areas to live amongst one another and made them 100% reliant on the government.
Yeah.
And what's happened in 2020? We've taken people's source of income, their life, schools from these kids. Like, across America, kids can't have a normal life like you and I had.
I know.
And we're not saying they're going to send us to some crazy place, but we're saying it's just very odd. The same thing when this happens in society, when people become 100% reliant on the government.
It's never a good sign.
Bad things happen.
It's never a good sign. Because if you look at countries nowadays, like 2020, okay, like modern era, what are there countries where the citizens are fully reliant and dependent on the government? Yes, it's Venezuela, it's Cuba, it's China, it's Russia, it's North Korea, and more. Like, it does not end well. Did they start that way? No, they started pretty much mostly well off, okay? And then they had some person rise up in the ranks, okay? For Germany, that was Hitler. He rised up and took over, and that's what happened. 6+7 million people died because of one person and a couple other people, probably not a couple, it was probably a lot more back then, thinking that they were superior because of someone else's difference, in their lineage or their looks or whatever. So,
we have to take it to 2020, and if we're a conservative, if you're a black conservative, if you're a woman who's not a feminist, you're looked down upon. You're like the enemy, and it baffles my mind because I look at a liberal and we make jokes about them and their purple hair and their craziness, but I don't look at them as less a person. Human.
No, never.
I look at them that they have a weird sense of beliefs. I don't, and I poke fun at them, but I don't look at them as less of important to humanity.
Exactly, they still deserve everything in life that I would deserve, or not deserve, but basic human rights, yes, deserve, but they get equal opportunity.
And that does not include healthcare, guys. Mm-hmm. That's not a basic human right.
That is not a privilege, ma'am or sir listening.
No, that is a privilege. It's not a right.
Healthcare?
Yeah, it's a privilege.
Oh, my bad. It's been a long day. This is like the 5th time filming this because audio and tech. So anyway, that was a lot of information. So feel free to go back, pause, move forward, repeat, rewind, do what you got to do. And as you can see, this wasn't an accident that happened in Germany. Hitler didn't just pop out of nowhere and then this happened. No, this was very systematically planned out from the get-go.
But the funny thing, not the funny thing, but the thing
Interesting.
is, and thank you, interesting thing
you.
is that it started with their cultural shift. They had to get people to look at people differently. And that's so what's happened. People who don't wear a mask for whatever reason, I don't care what your reason is. I don't care. You don't have to wear one if you don't want to, if you can't, whatever it is. We're looked down upon. We're looked as super spreaders, as less than in society because we don't wear a stupid thing on our face. Like, it's ridiculous.
So not quite everything that we mentioned, earlier in this podcast, but just a couple things or a good amount of things. Change the word Jewish or Jew to anti-masker, someone who appreciates America, our president, or literally anything, a Christian, anything aligns with someone that's a Bible reading, family loving, gun toting constitutionalist.
Yeah.
Okay.
Change it out with the Patriot Sisters.
What's happening? Okay, honestly, though, but honestly. So see the similarities? We do. We definitely see them. But what could happen if you wear Trump gear in the wrong place?
Oh, a whole heck of a lot could happen.
A whole lot could happen. Who is spreading fake stories? We saw that with the German government. They spread fake stories about the Jews. Who's doing that? Do we have someone in 2020 doing that?
We do. We have our media. We have our own propaganda. And it's not coming directly from the government necessarily.
It's the private sector.
I mean, fake stuff is coming out, but it's just natural people, everyday life people who are in the news. Being manipulated for whatever reason. I mean, we have AG Barr, who's a little crazy lately. I don't know about him.
I don't know what that's going to plan out to be. But is our culture changing to accept and tolerate versus deny and push down certain topics or people these days? I think it is. Look at Hollywood. That is who our culture, that's like the culture
leader.
Okay? Like in America. It's Hollywood. What are our laws looking like? Are they changing? Are there new laws trying to be implemented?
A whole heck of a lot is happening. And this isn't to alarm you. This is to keep you informed and to remind you about the famous phrase that says, history repeats itself.
Always.
And those without knowledge will perish.
So consider yourself to be alive, well, breathing.
And you have the knowledge. Now it's your job to go do something about it, to rise up.
Stand tall.
And fight back with truth.
We're real.
We're raw.
And we're unleashed with the Patriot Sisters. That's what this is.
That's what this is.
That's what this is.
You guys are so awesome. I hope this was informative to you. It's a little bit different. We like doing little history nuggets, and we do this on our Instagram as well as we want to do it on here, diving deeper. Head over to our Instagram at unleashed.podcast. Let us know that you listened to episode 4, and if you liked it, what do you think?
I know, I'm interested.
Did you learn anything?
Hopefully.
Also, we're on at the Patriot Sisters, of course, is our main hub, HQ. So anything there, we love to connect with you guys on both of those platforms as we share different content on both.
Yeah. We keep it diverse.
Yeah, we share all the latest news about the podcast on Unleashed first.
Podcast. Unleashed.podcast on Instagram. So
you guys get all the info and all the details first. So you guys are awesome.
Okay, as always, we'll see you in the next one.